United States of America
and to
and
the
to the republic
for which
for
it
which it stands,
one
one
nation
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
and with liberty.
with liberty and justice for all. Thanks so much. Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote? Oh, the roll call, no vote. No vote yet.
Roll call. Trustee Burdall.
Here.
Trustee Brocchini.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Levin.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The district digitally records the audio and video portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board, your microphone will be unmuted, and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. Item 6, report out on closed session topics. The board met in closed session regarding conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator, the employee organization CSEA, LSEA, and LSM. No action was taken. Item 7, approval of the minutes of September 16th, 2020. Questions regarding the minutes of September 16th, 2020? I will just call Trustee Brocchini.
No questions.
Trustee Burdall.
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
And Trustee Doggett.
No questions.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 16th, 2020?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll second. Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8, approval of the minutes of September 30th, 2020. Are there any questions regarding the September 30th, 2020? Trustee Brocchini.
No questions. No questions.
I'm frozen, or if it's others.
Yes, you were frozen.
I was frozen. Okay, how about this? I'm going to make it easier because I'm freezing up. Is there anybody that has any questions? Please raise your hand or speak up now. Otherwise, I'll take it as a no. All right, I'm going to take that as a no. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 30th, 2020?
I'll motion to approve.
Do I have a second? I will second it then. Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9, approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the agenda and consent agenda? Trustee Brocchini.
No questions.
Trustee Burdall.
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
And Trustee Doggett.
No questions.
Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're on item 10, communications. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. 10A, lsca. Is there someone from lsca who would like to speak? Okay. Well, we can come back to them after. Let's let CSEA.
Megan says nothing at this time. Megan Nelson.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't see that in there. Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't scroll down all the way. Okay. Thank you, Megan. CSEA. CSEA. Going once, twice, 3 times. If CSEA wishes to speak later, I'm happy to allow them to. We have a host of people wishing to address the board, and Scott Higdon is the first on the list. Thanks, Christy. Scott, hopefully we're getting you hooked up here. Are we having any luck getting Scott Higdon connected, unmuted? Yeah,
my system is a little bit glitchy in that I can't get the participants with sound.
He's got it.
Okay.
Scott, you should be on now.
I saw the pop-up window. It works. Technology works.
Great. We can hear you.
First, thanks to all of my kids' teachers during this trying time. I'm the parent of several kids in the school district. I really appreciate their positive attitudes during these last few weeks. You know, Mrs. Vuskovic, Ms. Young, Ms. Chase, Ms. Shannon, Taylor, Ms. Hall, Mrs. Arai, Mrs. Mayo, Mrs. Wiseman, Mr. Yu. There's a lot of people that are putting night and day effort into this. So really great to see how much the school system has to offer. They're all being really encouraged. So by the way, they're all in full year distance learning. Wanted to make that clear. They're trying to be very productive, encouraging their work and learning. I do have the privilege of being able to work remotely, so I can check up on them periodically during the day. And from my observations, there are just a few questions around the online technology platforms that are being used. So I'm very curious as to if there's a standard platform or suite of software that's been officially approved by the school district for use by the teachers. And if so, has the principal and or teachers been informed clearly of these options? Furthermore, what technology measures have been implemented within the IT departments to ensure that all of our students are kept safe while online? And if not, in terms of a standard suite and platform that's been approved by the district for use for distance learning or across all digital learning opportunities, will the district please invest to create a technology or a software platform for them to use and be trained on so that we can keep our students very much focused on their learning, very safe while online and free from distractions. For instance, I know a lot of students use and teachers use YouTube, which is a great platform, but there's often very much distracting and sometimes inappropriate content that pops up alongside those videos. So for instance, something like Safe Share TV is an example of something that can keep our students more focused on their work at hand instead of cruising around the internet. So I want to make that a suggestion for our distance learning. And, I think it's a learning process for all of us to get through this time, but we can use these opportunities to get better, of course. So thanks for that. Happy to discuss further.
Thank you very much for your input. So next we have several teachers who would like to speak. The first is Diane Stillman. Superintendent Olson, you are muted right now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. My name is Diane Stillman, and I've been teaching at Cabrillo School for 21 years. Dear school board, I love my students. There's nothing I want more than to go back to school. Unfortunately, I feel as if we are no closer to accomplishing this goal than we were last March. So I'm asking, have there been studies of classrooms with size and spacing determined to meet the CDC guidelines? Is the custodial staff well trained in COVID-19 preventative measures? Do we have the necessary PPE and sanitation equipment to clean and sanitize the high touch points in the classrooms and school common areas on a daily basis? Areas or things to include, but not limited to, would be desks, backs of chairs, door handles, sink faucet handles, copy machine, and common prep areas of bathrooms. We need to know that there are mitigation efforts in place and strict adherence to the CDC, state, and county guidelines. I've not seen a change in sanitation practices during this school year when we have so few people on site. I've heard that there will be committees, but have seen no action toward implementation of a safe return to school. I'm not even sure if guidelines have been put in place while teachers are working in their classroom, other than a request to wear masks in common areas. Protocols should be put in place and tested now so we are prepared for the time and we have more people that we will need to guide and move safely around our campuses. I invite you to walk through our schools and talk to the teachers on campus to see how they are feeling. It is concerning that the district's biggest concern regarding back to school opening at the last board meeting seemed to be waiting for testing to be available for staff every 2 months. Every 2 months? Shouldn't the concern be how we're going to sanitize areas, mandate mask wearing, space furniture appropriately? Without these measures, you will not need to test your teachers every 2 months. We will be sick long before that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Alyssa Repetto.
Hi, can you hear me yet?
Yes.
My name is Elisa Repetto, and I've been teaching at Cabrillo School for 20 years. Dear school board, I love my students. There is nothing I want more than to go back to school. When we are able to return safely, we must keep in mind how we as a district will recruit and retain quality teachers. As you are aware, our teachers are paid lower than any district in the county. For a long time, this low pay was not such a deterrent because we had excellent health benefits and a rapport with our district office. We felt that we were supported, heard, and seen. Not to be cliche, but it was a big family working towards a common goal of educating our children for the future and building community. Now we are too often left to our own devices, feeling as though we don't have support. For instance, a brand new teacher was recently hired and given absolutely nothing from the district. This teacher didn't have any curriculum, a device to work on, a class list, materials, etc. Who ended up helping the teacher? Other teachers, which in normal circumstances isn't a problem. Teachers have always collaborated with and supported each other. But when teachers are recreating a curriculum on their own with little or no guidance, it is quite a difficult task. This is all on top of building relationships with our students, learning new technology, and trying to deliver curriculum. If distance teaching is overwhelming for a veteran teacher, imagine how a first year teacher feels. We need to continue to support and develop our new teachers so they will stay, but it cannot be on the backs of teachers alone. Please keep this in mind as we move towards returning safely to school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Chris Donnelly.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Oh. Can we get, there she is. You seem to be muted now, so I'm not sure if Christy has to. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, loud and
Okay,
clear.
fantastic, fantastic. Okay. My name's Chris Donnelly. I've been teaching in the district for 24 years now. Dear school board, I love my students. There is nothing more I want than to go back to school with them. However, everything needs to be fully in place before we open the doors. Before the school year began, teachers were told to focus on lessons around social and emotional learning, and SEL curriculum was on the way. I was hoping to have a tangible, can hold in my hand comprehensive curriculum. Where is this SEL curriculum now? I hear it's coming soon. However, it's the 34th day of school, and it is still nowhere to be seen. We were promised curriculum and materials only for them to be significantly delayed or not to appear at all. Instead, my colleagues and I have created our own activities to make sure our students get the support they needed. We continue to create assignments to fill gaps in our daily curriculum. Please do not send us back until we are fully prepared. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much. Sorry, just wanted to get this down. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Barb DeVolder.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Barb DeVolder, and I've been teaching at Cabrillo School for 13 years. Dear school board, I love my students. There is nothing I want more than to go back to school. I am not the IT person. I am not paid as much as an IT person. Please, admin, do not email me during my live Zooms to ask me to email the parents explaining a computer fix to them. Please find a system to answer emails and troubleshoot IT issues from your end. I am drowning in emails from my own families needing help. In addition, I was not given any professional training to learn the various platforms that were necessary to keep the ship afloat last spring, nor 6 months later was I given any to start the fall, even though we knew at the very least we would be starting hybrid. Teachers leaned on each other for help. We spent countless hours of our own time training ourselves over the summer to learn platforms that were given to us less than a week before school started. The summer training that was limited in registration was supposed to allow those that attended to come back and provide training to others. That did not happen. We, resilient as always, searched YouTube and Google for trainings on our own, set up our own homemade dock cameras using our own phones, and shared any knowledge we came across with those around us. I am so thankful for my fellow teachers, but once again, it feels like we are doing our jobs plus jobs of those who are paid much more than we are. It feels as if the admin is very far removed from what is actually happening at our level. School board, I encourage you to reach out and speak with teachers and do not assume everything you are told by the district office is accurate. We plead for two-way communication. Dear school board, I love my students. There's nothing I want more than to go back to school. At a time when there are so many unanswered questions, wouldn't it be nice to make a decision so the community has at least one solid piece of information? Let's put a stake in the ground saying that the earliest students will return to campus will be January 4th. Let's not pretend that we can safely prepare our classrooms, our custodial staff, our teachers, parents, and students for a safe return. Wondering from week to week is causing even more stress for our staff and families. Yes, it might not be what people want to hear. We all would love COVID to be gone tomorrow so we could get back to normal, but that's not going to happen. Let's eliminate some of the uncertainty and decide that under no circumstances will we be welcoming students back into school until January 4th. We might not be able to have students return even then, but at least we know that they will not be returning before then. Relieve some teacher, and family anxiety by giving us a date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Charlotte Jacobs.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Jacobs, and I've been teaching at Cabrillo School for 26 years. Dear school board, I love my students, and there is nothing I want more than to go back to school. Please take the time to analyze the rapid acceleration of salary raises of administration over the years versus teachers. I know that the combined salaries of the 6 admins in the district office is more than $1 million combined. I wonder how many teachers it would take to reach $1 million. A lot. We are the lowest paying district in San Mateo County, which, by the way, is the most expensive county to live in California. Yes, we are at the bottom, number 28. I wonder where our admin rank is in the county. As we move forward in the school year, please do not forget prior to COVID that the teachers were fighting for a contract. The district was offering a 1% raise and wanting to take the rest of our health benefits. The community stood behind us as your meetings became packed with families supporting us. Then COVID happened. Our contract stayed the same. Yes, we did get a $400 stipend for our hard work, and I thank you for that. But I did not receive that money until the end of August. Why was that? Why do we have to fight for everything that we need, including the $300 that was just approved for us to purchase technology that we need in order to do our jobs? The money was there. Why did our union have to fight so hard to get it? This year, I am putting in more hours than I have ever had in my teaching career, 12 to 14 hours a day, every day. We don't have weekends anymore. Our families are constantly asking, are you still on the computer? Are you still doing school? And many of us have sleepless nights worrying about what else we should be doing for the students. I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, and I'm hurt that the district is not thinking of their teachers, the ones that are holding the schools together because of their dedication to their job, teaching the children of Pacifica. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ela Dwyer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Isla, and thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for your time. My name is, this is really quick. I am Isla Payne Dwyer, 7th and 8th grade teacher at Cabrillo for more than 20 years. And I just want it set on record that we started our school year this year with 0 training on Zoom meetings, nothing in the days prior to the school year or the summer. We were thrown to the wolves and expected to figure it out as we used it. This is an embarrassment to the way tech should be rolled out. How was that overlooked? I question the priority of programming and training provided for teachers during this super stressful time. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Kiyomi Arai.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Kiyomi Arai, and I've been teaching at Cabrillo School for only 13 years. Dear School Board, I love my students, and there is nothing I want more than to go back to school. We need consistency. We are told different things by different people at different times, messages that aren't being shared in these board meetings. Let me reflect on the first few days of school. Here are some questions that teachers shared. Is my class list ready? Yes, just refresh your browser. No, it's not working. Press the pull down menu. It's not working, really. When will we get our codes to access reading and writing? Well, we only ordered 50 codes. Why? There are clearly more than 50 teachers who teach language arts in our district. When will the math books arrive? The week after school begins. When will the math manipulatives be ordered? It's the end of August and they haven't been ordered? From new teachers, I don't have a school email yet. Should I use my phone to have my Zoom meeting? How long will it take to get a Chromebook? When will I have access to my class in Synergy? There's no classroom for me to use. We need consistency. As the weeks went by, we adjusted only to deal with other logistic and tech issues. How is attendance taken? Can they turn in work or be counted as present for the day? Do they have to check in before 9:30 or before 3 o'clock? Do you know that kids were able to create their own YouTube channel with their own school email? They didn't even have to type their birth date or get their parents' permission. No, I didn't know that. Well, you've known this for a few weeks now. Chromebook updates or taking out or putting in extensions. I still don't know what happened, but I sure did have to deal with some angry, stressful parents when half my class was not able to join our only meeting of the day. Parents left their work meetings to give up their device and deal with panicked children. But the families who had their own device, well, they were able to access the class just fine. Consistency. During my collaboration meetings, I learned that each school had a different take on assessments. I brought this topic up for weeks now, and today I received a second or third confirmation stating assessments are optional. While at a meeting last week, I was told, no, they're not. I was also told today, don't compare yourself to anyone else. I'm sensing lots of that right now. It's not necessary. Well, let me respond to that. I'm not comparing myself to anyone. I'm a public school teacher and I believe in equal access to education. I was under the impression that we as a district were going to be unified and streamline our curriculum for all students. Yes, the district did create Google Classrooms for each grade level to collaborate. It's been helpful. But we are the ones that schedule our own meetings. We are the ones that are creating or sharing or buying digital tools. We are the ones spending time training and teaching one another how to do X, Y, and Z because we are not offered tech training during our professional development day. Even though there are so many inconsistent things within our district, there is one consistent theme. When we meet with our fellow colleagues, we are consistently frustrated with the lack of support and the direction we need. We are consistently exhausted and overworked. We are consistent in our confusion of what we are supposed to do and why we are being ignored with some suggestions and questions. This is not the consistency that we need within our district. It is time that we stay true to our word and be unified and to streamline education for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Natalie Abenante. Oh, that's on item 11B. I'm sorry. We'll get to you later, okay? So next we have Rebecca Plotzer.
Hello, district. My name is Rebecca Plotzer. I currently have 3 children that go to Cabrillo. I'm speaking on behalf of my Cabrillo teachers and other parents and whatnot. Anywho, 1 second. Please be quiet. Sorry, my husband just came home from work. I'm talking about how we have had issues with dealing with kids logging in online and getting to their Zooms and whatnot and whatnot and dealing with and that kind of such. But my biggest issue here is the communication between the district and the parents on what is happening. We're in a certain tier. When are we going to be going back? What are we supposed to be expecting? And why are our teachers who are not, they're not making a crud ton of money, but yet they're going out of their way to go ahead and help all of our kids and make the best of the crappiest situation we could ever go ahead and imagine. And I pray to God that our kids will never have to deal with this with my grandchildren or their children, because this is just such an unexpected situation. But I am so disappointed in our school district and how they respond, and they take so many days to get back to parents when they email them, they call them, and such. And it is just the biggest disappointment that I have ever had with being with the Pacifica School District now for 10 years. And I am just deeply disappointed in what you guys are doing with the situation that is at hand. And I would really like to see you guys step up with the tax dollars that you're getting and such, and these teachers who are just bleeding money. What are you guys going to go ahead and do? And for a parent of 4 in 2 different school districts and having complaints from teachers and whatnot and so on and so forth, I'm just really disappointed in the way that you guys are handling every situation and every email and everything that's been going on. I'm just seriously disappointed in the school district, but I truly do appreciate the teachers who are going above and beyond to help and make this crappy situation the best that it can be. And I would really like to see the school district that I've lived here, been a part of for 40 years, step up and do something. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let me see. Jamie Blanchard, 11M. So we're going to remember you for when that comes up. Okay. All right, I'm going to get back to this. It doesn't seem like there's anybody else that wishes to speak at this moment. So correspondence, item 10D. Is there any correspondence?
Trying to unmute myself. I'm a little bit.
There you go.
We did receive the letter from Denise Porterfield's office regarding our adopted budget. We will post that on the budget section of our website. It states that we do plan to make our 3% reserve next year, but are not, with our reserves, not probably consistently able to do it in years 2 and years 3. As a result of that, we are receiving some additional county oversight. And so every time we go to settle negotiations, we have to run it by the county office to make sure that we have the funds to do so. But that it's an important letter that I will post on our district's website in the budget area.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have 10E Board Superintendent Communications. Who would like to start?
I can start, Jesse.
Sure.
I won't take too much time. We had a special meeting about the task force and a few extra unfinished business. I zoomed into Ocean Shores back to school night. I happened to be in a kindergarten through first grade class. I just went through the schedule to see where I could go at which time. And I was so happy I did. I was impressed with the parent community, their flexibility, their optimism, and being positive during this time, as well as the teachers. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Who would like to go next?
I can. I went to Ocean Shore one also. I think that was before the last meeting. Since the last meeting was only about a week ago, there was much to report this week except for the county electeds meetings, which is every Wednesday, and they update on what position we're at with the county, with the coloring, with COVID, and they're supplying meals and so forth. And it's a lot of information, very interesting meeting, and we're updated with that on a weekly basis.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go ahead and go. Or let's see. So I'm also on the same call as Elizabeth's on. Last week I actually spent mostly working on stuff for the school district. I took 2 masters in governance classes last week. So I had 16 hours of synchronous learning. So I can completely empathize with my children and the students in this district on how hard that can be. But I got a lot out of those 2 meetings or those 2 classes. 2 things I'd like to kind of work on going forward. And I mentioned Heather is a governance calendar. I think would help. We've got 2 and then will be 3 new board members at the end of the year, just to kind of get an idea where we should go. I know right now is a unique time, but I know that some of that stuff's in people's heads, but it'd be nice to have it all written out. The other thing that came up in those meetings was an air quality policy. And I actually went over our safety guidelines, and we don't really actually have an air quality policy. There are policies out there. So I'll talk to Heather about doing that maybe when our safety guidelines come up in, I think, February, so that we have a real clear idea that if we hit a certain number, it's time to go home and do distance learning for a few days while the smoke clears. So that came up. The other thing I wanted to mention is that actually Elizabeth mentioned a few weeks ago is places regarding voting. If you're interested in in-person voting in the San Mateo County, there's 3 places to go. There's the South San Francisco Library, which is at 840 West Orange. You can vote also at the Registration and Elections Divisions Voting Center, which is at 40 Tower Road in San Mateo. And also the Assessor County Clerk's Office, which is at 555 County Center in Redwood City. You could always also put your ballot in the mailbox, and there is also a ballot drop off in front of City Hall in Pacifica at 170 Santa Maria Avenue. So those are some places to make sure you go out and vote. It's very important. And that's it for me today.
Thank you very much. So Kai, would you like to weigh in here a little bit? I think you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I really can't talk today.
I understand. Okay. I don't have too much to add. I was going to mention the voting, but thank you, Trustee Brocchini. I just wanted to say that I voted on Monday and dropped off my wife's ballot as well at 40 Tower Road. So very easy to do. And once you do it, you don't have to think about it. Um, the only other thing that I have to report is that we had a very good, I guess it was a work study meeting. It was public, and we were going over the structure of the task force. Um, so I think that that's in the works, and it can't be too soon for those guys to convene their work. So that's about it for me.
Can I
Um,
follow up on Linda's comment around voting? Is that we are having an election for one 2-year position, and there are 3 candidates. And so we are working with the League of Women Voters to host a candidate forum. And that will be on the 21st of October at 7 p.m. All of the information is on the front page of our website. And because it's being hosted by the League of Women Voters, if people have questions that they want to submit to be answered, there's a link right there on the website. And if you could send those questions in prior to the event, they would appreciate that. Looking forward to that.
and thank you for remembering that. Okay, I'm going to move on to item 11, district business. District goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our agenda online public page or by visiting the district website, www.pacificasd.org, under District Information, Board of Trustees. Item 11A, Board Governance Handbook. Superintendent Olson.
Okay, so this was a 2-day workshop where we spent significant time talking about our governance handbook that had been developed previously. And Luann Rivera, who was the facilitator of the workshop, took our work in that workshop and put it into the form of revisions on our governance handbook. And so the draft of that handbook is accompanying this board item. And so the question is, do you have any revisions that you'd like to make? We did highlight them so that they stood out, but are there any revisions that the board would like to make before we approve that?
I do have one revision that I think really needs to be made before we approve it, and it's not to delete anything, but it's to move something. So on page 12, there is at the top of the page there's a box that describes the board's role in collective bargaining. And as we all agreed to improve the communication between LSEA, CSEA, and the district, we wanted to allow them to have a reserved slot anytime they wished to present to the board as an agendized item. Now, that the description of that made its way into this discussion of collective bargaining, but I really see those as 2 very different things. In fact, when we were deliberating on that, it was very clear, at least in my mind, that this would really be for LSEA and or CSEA communication with the board and the community, but it would not be a forum for any bargaining. So I just think that this seems to be out of place. And what I suggest is that we create a new box in here and pluck that out. And that new box could be called something like communications between the associations and the board, or something like that. But I really see that reserved slot for the district, for the unions to communicate to the community and to the administration and to the board as something different from collective bargaining. So I don't know if anybody else caught that, but that was sort of my major. I have several different tiny. I might have caught a typo here or there, and very tiny wordsmithing changes here and there, but that's the major one that I caught. So I guess I'd like some discussion around that, or I'd like to hear my colleagues' thoughts on that.
That makes sense. That's a good catch.
Is there any way we can pull it up so that we can see it and the public can see it?
Will?
All right, give me a second.
In the meantime, I agree with that change, Jesse.
Okay. I mean, in that exact same second, section, and we'll see it in a second. It does also say that their reports will not be limited to 3 minutes. I was never aware that communications for CSCA or LSCA were limited to 3 minutes in the first place. So maybe I was wrong. I don't ever remember them being cut off, but anyway, I might just be wrong. Maybe they were limited to 3 minutes, but that's one other very small change is that if they've never been limited, I don't see why we should say that they won't be limited to 3 minutes. I mean, they can speak for as long as they want.
I think since we were never sure whether they were limited to 3 minutes or not, it's probably a good thing to just state it that they're not limited, just to be clear to everybody.
Oh, okay, I mean, I'm good with that as well. Okay, so thanks, Will. I can see this. If you bring it up to page 12, please. There it is. So the third bullet down, I suggest that we move that bullet out, and it really should be, under its own heading that is really communication between the board and the associations or something like that. And that's what the bullet is about as well. I mean, the bullet doesn't say anything about collective bargaining either. So, well, I guess it does say concerns of the bargaining units, but
Other suggestions?
Are we talking just on this item?
Oh, no.
Oh, I just, as we were going, this has been like a long process of like a year and a half or longer, I think. November 28th, 2018. So I think I was president when part of this happened, and I think Jesse was. I think there should be something in here where the superintendent and president need to have some kind of meeting to go over this, just as a reminder, because I was at fault not following one of these with a new board member within 90 days. And then also with communication with a board member or superintendent. So I think that, maybe the president should be well informed on what the handbook is, as well as all of us. But I mean, I think just for the superintendent and the president to have a gauge or a handle on the timelines. We're going to be having a new board member coming in. Maybe that can be where the president and the superintendent go over what's in the governance handbook. And then following the timeline for us as well, just reviewing it maybe on a yearly basis, maybe when the beginning of the year is pretty crazy, but maybe we could all take, one half of a day or something during our summertime to review it and commit to reviewing it. And then maybe another time during Christmas vacation or something. Just because we took a lot of time, and I do believe maybe even paid somebody to go over this with us the first time, and I know for sure the second time. And so I just think it's important, if we're going to have a handbook, I think we need to follow what's in it and know what's in it. And I know it's fairly new, so this would be a good time to do that.
Okay.
Laverne, I was gonna say, if that would be a good time when we do the reorganization every December. So maybe that would be a time when every board member would get the current handbook sent out to them to review it, because that then would include any new people that were elected that December. So maybe along with the organizational meeting, that'll just become just an item that always happens at that time. It can happen more times too, but it seems like that very first week in December, and like you said, then you have Christmas break to look over it at your leisure or something like that. But it might be a time to remind everybody.
That's a wonderful idea, Elizabeth.
Sounds good.
I'm in total, Trustee Villalobos, I think that's, yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. This is supposed to be kind of a living document that is referred to on a continuous basis, right? Not something that you develop, make changes, and then put away for a year or two, right? So I think it's a great suggestion. Are there any other? I mean, I have a couple of little small ones that we can fly through, as well as you know, a couple of questions about typos or things that are bolded that shouldn't be bolded. But those are really easy, I think. But I want to open it up. Um, Trustee Brocchini, do you have anything that you'd like to that you think is not quite right before we vote on this thing?
No, I'm okay with it, and I appreciate your guys' changes that you just suggested.
Okay. So I have a very trivial change, you guys. Will, if you can go to page 11, please. And so the second box there is professional behavior, and I think, you know, it talks about points of view held by their fellow governance team members. I think that deserves a parenthetical that defines who the governance team members are, and that would be very easy to do. Okay, and I'm assuming that it's not only the board, it's also cabinet, right? But, and maybe I'm wrong there, I'm not sure, but I would assume that it would, you know, the governance team is not just the board. But if I'm wrong there, then and people think that this is the governance team is only the board, then forget that I said anything about this. All right.
I think typically it's considered the board and the superintendent is the governance team.
Okay. So I just needed some clarification there.
Yeah.
And if we want to, we can put that in there. And I think that was about it. I think I might have had a word in here or there. So I guess the one other place that's slightly substantive is if you can go up to page 7, Will. I mean, Mr. Lucy. Try to keep it formal. And the top box there, the box that says giving direction, the last sentence says normally requests from board members shall be communicated through the superintendent. I think that this probably deserves something about what types of requests these might be. And these are often informational requests. But my suggestion is that in between board members and shall, we insert something like for information or for information from staff. Because right now it just says requests. And I'm not really sure, you know, that could use a little more definition, I would think. And I think we are talking about informational requests, but it could say informational or otherwise. So it would read something like normally requests from board members for information from staff shall be communicated through the superintendent. So anyway, that's just a suggestion. The rest of the stuff is really even more trivial than that. So really just wordsmithing, all right, or correcting a few typos that I found.
Great. Jesse, could we get those typos so that we can make
Yeah.
the updates?
Yeah, absolutely. I put them as sticky notes or whatever you call them in PDF. So I'll just send it along to you. All right.
Perfect. And so what I would suggest, because there are a few substantive ones, is that we make those changes and bring this back for approval on the 28th, if you'd be okay with that.
I'm fine with that. Are my fellow trustees okay with that?
Yes, that sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks so much. Let me get back to this. Okay, so we're going to shelf that. Moving on to item 11B, COVID-19 update and task force development. Superintendent Olson.
I think Natalie was going to make a comment. I'm not sure if that happens before.
Yes, it happens. It's going to happen after. And in fact, I was reminded going through the board governance that it talks about our processes, and that's one of the processes. So we're gonna do the item first, and then Natalie can speak to it.
Okay. So if you pull that up, I'm just going to put a sticky on my piece around the governance session. Okay. You'll hit the next slide. That would be great. So one of the just tough things about doing a board agenda is that it had to be posted last week, and the tier assignments come out every Tuesday. So this was the tier assignment from last week, where San Mateo was in the first week of the being in the red zone. And so if you'll move on to the next one, I did put a placeholder in this presentation. So this is a new slide that was added today. And it is that we have completed our 14th day in the red, and that those numbers are coming down from the new cases went from 6.5 per 100, and they're now at 4.9 per 100,000. And the positivity rate, the number of positive tests that are positive, went from 3.7 to 2.6. But the most important piece is that San Mateo now has, on Tuesday, completed its 14th day. And so that the schools are legally allowed to be open. We are not ready. There are a number of things that we have to do that I'm going to outline in this presentation. But I think that both parents and staff want to know what is coming from the red. What does it mean now that we're in the red zone for 14 days? There are just a couple things I'd like to talk about while we have this map up. Is that what was recently released was what's called an equity metric. And there was a lot of talk before it came out what it would be. And now that it has come out, it really is looking at the difference, typically socioeconomically, based on neighborhoods or outcomes of positivity in terms of testing. And so it is the responsibility of counties to narrow that gap between groups of citizens. And so one of the things in terms of moving down to the more moderate or the orange level is that if we are not able as the county to hit that equity touch point, that we would not move down into that next point. And just in terms of expectations, I do not believe that we'll be moving into that more moderate class quickly. I think that we will be in this red category for some time. So if you'll go to the next one. I bring this back to, we've been talking about returning to school for a long time, and just bring this back in terms of priorities in our return to plan, and perhaps in the discussion, if we want to adjust any of these. To me, they sound consistent with some of our conversations that we have, but just starting with our highest priority is the safety of students, their families, and our staff. To the degree that we can do safely, we want to have students on campus as much as possible. We will focus on students who experience the largest gap in learning during distance learning. This includes students who receive special education services, our English learners, foster youth, or socioeconomically disadvantaged. And then number 4 is we want to prioritize the social emotional health of our students, their families, and our staff. So we'll keep going, but if we want to return to that or beef up any of those, we can discuss that. So there are a lot of questions about when we will return to school. Is that we will return to school when it is both safe and legal to return to school. So the county, it is legal to the degree that that we can. We have not submitted our return to school plan, and that's another step in the legality that shows all of the actions that we're going to take to keep staff and students safe, as well as having the county, San Mateo County Office of Ed and the Office of Public Health would need to approve that plan. So they're quite substantial plans, and the role of the task force will be developing those plans. That will be expected outcomes of the task force. So the decision will be made on public health data and our ability to meet the requirements for safety, testing, and the availability of contact tracing. So are we able to make plans in terms of how students come into the buildings and leave the buildings so that we are minimizing contact with others? So there are a lot of factors that come into this. Once schools are reopened to some in-person instruction, it's recommended that there be surveillance testing to be implemented with staff every 2 months. That is the requirement by the state. In San Mateo County, more consistently, school districts are going with once a month as just a safety precaution more often. And that we will continue to evaluate the prospects every 6 weeks. I believe that since we have board meetings every 3 weeks at this point, because we're going to be giving you an update on the task force, is that we will be reporting to you every 3 weeks, with the next report will be on October 28th. In terms of the return to school task force, that was a focus of our special meeting that we had last week. LSEA is working on filling out their membership. I sent an email to PTO and parent council representatives this morning. And this week I will, in one of my parent communications, also reach out to parents who would be interested in identifying themselves for this return to school task force. So that's moving along. Our first meeting will be on October 20th. So our to-do list is long. These are just some of the major items that are on the to-do list. Is continue to keep our eye on the local data on COVID-19. And there's a nice cadence that it comes out every Tuesday to take a look at that. We will not return to school until the plan for the return to school comes to the board for your approval. And then it goes to the county and the public health office. And that sometimes can take 10 to 14 days. So just in terms of the amount of time that is coming forward, I do not expect that on the 28th of October that we will have a finished plan to bring to you. I believe the number of details that are associated with this in a group form will take some time to complete. Continued collaboration and negotiations with LSEA and CSEA as the board is aware, and many of the audience are aware, is that items that have to do with working conditions or health and safety conditions are negotiable. And so we are working consistently. We have a number of dates on the calendar. I am pleased that we are having these conversations that are not necessarily easy, but important. And so negotiations will continue to be a part of this return to school piece. We'll have a survey out to parents and staff next week, and probably students Following that, we're going to survey students in 3rd through 5th grade and 6th through 8th grade around a number of items related to distance learning and their experience. On Tuesday, October 13th, we have a professional development day, and almost all staff will be a part of training in San Mateo County Office of Ed's Pandemic Recovery Framework. And so the focus will be on how do we return to school safely. In the afternoon, our custodial staff will receive their first training in terms of disinfecting and cleaning based on the pandemic recovery guidelines. And so I will send links to the board members if they'd like to participate in any of the sessions. Feel free to do that. A really important piece of a safe return to school is being able to have COVID-19 tests available to staff and have a regular cadence of testing staff. And so entering into a contract with a testing service, San Mateo County Office of Education has an umbrella contract with a company called Curative. We will participate in a presentation on that next week and learn a little bit more about that. We may be able to bring a contract to you on the 28th of October. I just don't know what's involved in all of the details with that, depending on how much information we need. We are looking at hiring additional custodians to meet the needs with cleaning. We recognize that one daytime custodian and one nighttime custodian for each school is not enough. And so we're looking at someone that would work perhaps morning, mid-morning to a little bit after school so that we could get some of those high touch points, ongoing cleaning throughout the day. We're going to begin the Return to School Task Force on the 20th of October. A portion of that will be, what does it look like at the site? And so there will be some standards like, how do you get into school? And so are we using our outside doors? Are we using, which classrooms are using which bathrooms? So there are a lot of not small decisions, but decisions that are really based on what a school site looks like. And so we'll be doing some of that as a part of the Return to School Task Force. And then a really important piece of this that we've been addressing since the spring is when employees do have concerns about returning to school. So as those plans are being developed, individuals have either medical needs or family needs that may keep them from participating in this. And some of those can be accommodated. And some of them can be accommodated with additional PPE. Sometimes it's a different working environment, but Alexis O'Flaherty in HR has been consistently meeting with people throughout this process, and I think that's an important piece. So that concludes the presentation, but this is the opportunity for questions and discussion.
Okay, I think that we should let Natalie Avenante speak first before we engage in our discussion, if we're going to follow our process. So, so can we please get Natalie unmuted?
Can we take the larger screen down for this part?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I love seeing all your faces. When looking at returning to the classroom, who knows what that looks like better than the teacher? The teacher who probably spends hours of their time and often many of their own dollars making that classroom work for their students and their students' individual needs. I think it's interesting that this task force is being proposed with one teacher for each school, not counting preschool, and one for special education. There are so many categories being represented here, but are they really fully being represented? Let's take Ocean Shore, where I work, as an example. Any teacher chosen to represent Ocean Shore will also be representing a grade span and also special education at our site. Any teacher on this task force will do their absolute best to represent everyone you're asking them to represent, because our staff cares about one another and we care about every single student. And yes, they will absolutely come back and share the discussions and then share the responses. However, that is so very different from having people having a voice at the table, especially for our special education staff that you keep saying you want to go back first. And as one of those staff members, I can't do justice to how much I want to see my students' faces in person again and how much I want to work with them again in a one-on-one in-person basis. But why not add a couple more teachers to truly understand what is happening in each classroom, in each grade level, in each school? There is so much to gain from just a few more voices. What is there to lose? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I would like to open it up to discussion amongst the trustees. Who would like to start? Who has something they'd like to ask or comment on?
I don't really have anything to ask, but I do want to say that the San Mateo County Pandemic Recovery Framework that has been put together is really good. And I think that it probably is good for all staff also to read, just because it actually does answer a lot of the questions and concerns, like if a teacher is sick, how do you handle it? If a student is sick, how do you handle it? How should you clean? All those things. It is really well laid out. It's not a quick read or a fun read necessarily, but I feel like part of this is about us building trust in the district and putting some trust in that a lot of people have put a lot of time into making sure that our kids are safe. And so I just want to notate that that is going to be part of the foundation of the task force, and that it really has been thought of, like every angle has been thought of very well. And so I just would hope that people take a look at that and take some time, because all of us, nobody wants to send anybody back early or have anybody be unsafe. That's the last thing any of us want to do. So I just want to say that, or I speak for myself, I guess, in that case, but yeah. So anyway, I just want to say that framework is out there. It is excellent. And, just take a little bit of time to look at it so you can feel a little more safe with the next steps.
Thank you very much for that comment. So I mean, my understanding is that there is going to be a professional development day that's kind of devoted to that. Did I get that right, Superintendent Olson?
Yes, you did. The very first part, the first half of the day will really be around health and safety. And the full year distance learning teachers will be doing technology during that morning piece. But for everyone else, both classified and certificated staff, is that it will be around the pandemic recovery framework with a presentation from San Mateo County Office of Ed, as well as a panel discussion with Nancy McGee and some local pediatricians.
Okay, thank you. So I have a quick question. I know you mentioned that the first task force meeting is scheduled for October 20th. What is the frequency with which they are going to meet? And I imagine, you're going to have full convenings, but perhaps they're going to be also sort of sub convenings as well, because it's a rather large group, right? So maybe it's by the columns that you had in something like that. But if you could speak a little bit on that, so we know what to expect. And clearly there's a lot to do. Everybody has their day job, and then this is on top of it, right? So I just wanted to know, the more you can squeeze in and meet, the faster plans will be made. So if you just speak to what the frequency of that.
So I would expect that that until we don't need it, we would be meeting every 2 weeks. To meet every week, we wouldn't be able to accomplish enough in between those times. And so we're scheduled for 2 hours. In my dream of dreams, when we get working consistently, those meetings would be about 90 minutes. We all find the 90-minute Zoom meeting to be kind of the perfect length, but we're going to give ourselves 2 hours. When we look at different breakouts, it may be by school sometimes. That would probably be the most likely breakout. Okay, we're talking about finding an isolation room and how to move into classrooms safely, or determining which classrooms use which bathrooms. Break out into your groups and have that discussion. So, but then there may be times where I think LSEA will probably meet outside of this. I think CSEA will meet outside of this. So it just depends on what the need is. But as we've talked about before, the expected outcome is to be working on producing the plan that we can take in front of the county. That first we take it to you, and then we put it in front of the county. So I would expect that if we meet every 2 weeks, having every 3 weeks, I'm not certain. We may have a weird board meeting where there isn't a report, but we will report to you with kind of the same cadence that we have board meetings. Is if there's something to report out to you, we will do that. We will include members of that task force, LSEA leadership, CSEA leadership as a part of that report to you. So yes, we want to move quickly, but we also, as we do this, we want to be thoughtful about this. And so we expect that the meetings would be about 2 hours. We're still looking at that right amount of time in terms of when it starts. We know that it probably will most likely have to start after the typical workday. And then the other piece is that trying not to interfere. A number of schools have second Tuesday board PTO meetings. So just trying not to interfere with that, because the principals are going to be a part of the task force.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I have one more sort of petty question, and that is on the matrix of proposed roles. It's just very strange that CSCA has a blank space for IBL. And that's sort of concerning to me. I think IBL really needs to have a CSEA member be represented there. So is that just they haven't decided on on a role yet, or what's going on?
So we had our meeting with CSEA, our pre-board meeting with CSEA yesterday, and we did talk about that. Jerry's going to work on getting that person for us and see.
Okay.
We did remember in our work study, we talked about the need for an additional custodian. We don't know that we can meet that at IBL in terms of that we would have available candidates to be able to do that. But we are looking for an additional CSEA person from IBL. So Jerry's working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee
Villalobos.
One clarification, I guess. In our special meeting, I was concerned about not having our facilities and maintenance manager there. Mm-hmm. Like, he's in charge of all of our grounds and our buildings. And so I'm just wondering, if he's not involved in the task force, how are we going to get that expertise that he has in our task force information?
Yeah. So just in looking at parity with the group, is trying not to have a lot more administrators as standing members of the meeting, because we do have principals. Every school site has a principal. We wouldn't be able to make any of these plans without the principals being a part of this. But I think the way that I've talked about it is that when that expertise is needed, then we would have him be a part of the meeting. When it's not needed, then he wouldn't be a part of the meeting. I do think that Jerry was thinking about perhaps having a facilities person be in that extra role that we have from a CSEA membership. But we could also invite George to be a part of that. But it was kind of a conscious decision in terms of one of the things we're trying to be really careful about is not making that committee to be too large. And So I don't know the answer to that. If the board felt strongly that George Machado should be at every meeting, we could do that. But he certainly would be at any of them where we were talking about facilities, health and safety, that kind of thing. But I saw it as being a more subject specific. When we got into discussions around what hybrid learning looked like and how that would play out, I don't think he has to be a part of that meeting. So it's more like expertise related.
I'm still I'm an advocate for having George on the committee because we're talking about a virus that needs to be killed if somebody is positive on the campus. And so, you know, the facility maintenance manager, what are we calling him? FMO?
He's the director of facilities maintenance and operations.
There is nobody else more qualified to know what steps or what cleaning products we can use, how often we can use those cleaning products. Maybe it's not safe to use them every hour. Maybe we use organic ones. So that's just where my head is as far as like, how can we have a completely safe and mostly clean facility if we don't have the top person in there helping with that.
I applaud that and I agree with that. I was just trying to be more measured and balanced in terms of the parity of the committee.
Well, I'm wondering if both of you guys, if you know, Superintendent Olson, you were suggesting that George would come in on an as needed basis. Well, I would expect that conversations in which George is needed, Christy is probably not needed, right?
Right.
So maybe that's the way, you take one of these cells in that table and you split it in two, right? So it's like a half Christie, half George, or whatever on an as needed, right?
That
And
makes sense.
so something like that, and you kind of split the time, or something like that. So I mean, I can think of other examples that kind of generalize that, right? Where we split up because, like I said, everybody has a day job too. So if they're not needed at the meeting, I'm sure everybody has plenty of other things to do. Um, anyway, that's just a thought. But I agree with Trustee Villalobos that he has a lot of knowledge and expertise that's going to be very pertinent to the planning.
I also, kind of based on some concerns that we heard today, I think that might be a good move, is to have him be a consistent member of that committee. Any other thoughts around that? Any other questions or thoughts in terms of next steps?
I guess my only question is, I wanted to know what the plans are for kind of note taking or minutes taking, and how that information will be disseminated. So from my point of view, so board members, my trustees and I don't have to wait every 3 weeks to get an update, right? So that we might be able to get I don't want real time information. I'm not demanding that, but maybe once a week or something like that.
Sure. We'll include that in our updates as we're going along, but we will find a process that there's a shared note-taking process along this.
Okay, that's great. And as you said, I mean, some of these groups are probably going to be meeting independently, right? So they're going to have to take notes, and they're going to have to disseminate that to the whole group as well. So I guess I'd like the information to kind of trickle up, so we don't just get one big update all of a sudden, and then have to read it all at once before a board meeting, right?
Perfect.
I totally agree with you, Jesse, that we should be updated, continually on it and not receive, here's our plan, and then go over it in a week or whatever.
I can assure you that we're many weeks away from getting a plan ready. So you will get several updates before we get a
Okay.
plan in front of you.
Okay, thank you very much. So any of my other colleagues that would like to speak, and I guess I'm Trustee Bradall, Trustee Brocchini, do you have anything else to say? And Trustee
No,
Doggett, I'm sure will write us if she has anything that she wants.
and no question.
No? Okay. And Trustee Brocchini, I think I saw a little shake of your head there.
Yeah, no more. I'm okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Sticking it out. Okay, I'm going to go back to my handy script here, and we're going to move on to item 11C as in cat, final certificated assignments. Ms. O'Flaherty.
Thank you. Mr. Lucy, do you mind sharing the item for this? Thank you.
Now,
So this,
will you put it in senior font for me, please? I need a little bigger. There you go. Oh, well.
Wow. Perfect. Thank you. So this informational item that I am presenting to you tonight is our final certificated assignments for this school year. Trustee Villalobos, you asked about the number of contractors we hired for the school year, and I have included those numbers on page 2 of the document. And as you can see, this is the first page here that Mr. Lucy is sharing, shows the FTE per grade level for each school site. And I'm not going to go through each school site and each FTE, but I wanted to see if there were any questions that I may answer regarding the final certificated assignments for the 2020-2021 school year.
I just have one question, Alexis. Just on the contracted employees, what's usually the upcharge on that? What additional are we paying over regular salary?
To be honest with you, I do not have that information. That's something that we can look into, but I do not have that information with me tonight.
It is based on what each individual contract is. So some agencies have different charges than other agencies, but we can get that information. That actually would be great information to have total.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So are there any other questions for Ms. O'Flaherty? I have none.
Can we go down to the contracting part? Or up? Thank you.
Yes.
So I was just curious because we have a lot of contractors, and I know that, it's hard to find special ed teachers, but I'm just curious about like the occupational therapists and physical therapists. Are they just too specialized where we can't have an employee, a part-time employee, or?
We have posted for these positions, and we have not had candidates who have the proper, whether it's a license that they need. We've had many interns that have applied, and unfortunately we can't have an intern because we don't have somebody that would be able to train the intern. So therefore we have had to contract out with occupational therapists and physical therapists.
And then I just have another question about the contractors again. I'm just wondering how they're working out, and because they're not a permanent employee and they're just there for a contracted amount of time, are we still seeing the same results that we would from somebody who's committed into the district and has a permanent job?
Well, we see all of our employees, whether they're paid through the district or contracted through an agency. We see them as our employees, and we support them with the same supports that we would support a district paid employee. And as far as um, the quality of education, our expectations are that they are teaching to the level of any teacher we would expect them to. And if that is not occurring, supervisors are in communication with the employee, just like if an employee were a district, a paid employee.
Thank you. And then the last one, this might be along the lines of Linda. I'm just wondering if we have a dollar amount on how much we're spending on the contractors um, versus like how much it would be for a teacher's position.
We can definitely get that information for you. I just don't have that tonight.
Thank you.
So I actually did have one question or comment. I mean, with the contractors, contractors that are really good, I would like to see them converted into, regular permanent, brought into the family, if you will. I know that there are not non-compete clauses that happen. I'm not sure how difficult those are to get around. Whether somebody has to leave for 6 months before they can come back or something like that. But I guess I wanted to hear just a little bit about that and whether that's even relevant. That is, do contractors just want to be contractors and they're not interested in joining the family?
So what I have noticed with contractors is they like that freedom, that flexibility to be able to travel and move to different locations. I did work with one contractor who was contracted through an agency, and this contractor was thinking about possibly looking into what it would take to become a Pacifica School District employee. And once I sat down with that person took a look at salary, our benefits that we provide, and our benefits are fantastic. But for this person, it was really the take-home pay that this person was looking for, and it wasn't evening out for this person. So that was a conversation I had with one contractor. But I do know a lot of teachers who are contractors like that flexibility of being able to travel.
Okay. Thank you. So that it doesn't bode well for my my wish that we convert.
We would love it, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, Trustee Levin. That would be something that we would love to do if it were to be working out with the contractor. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering if there are other things that we can do to entice contractors that we really want to keep on to become full-time permanent with us. But I guess I would ask that you guys think of strategies that move in that direction, right? I don't know if it's a sign-on bonus or just something to entice them, right?
Thank you for that. Mhm.
Jesse just stirred something in my head. And I'm just wondering, since they're contractors, do we evaluate them like we do with our regular permanent employees?
We do not use the same evaluation system. However, supervisors are often going into the classrooms to see how their students are doing, and in return seeing how what the needs are of the teacher, no matter if they're district paid or contractor. So the evaluation process does look different, but the contact between the supervisor and the employee is the same, if that makes sense.
So how is it different from a permanent employee?
So the contractor is not evaluated in the same way as a district paid employee. Um, is that what you're asking, Trustee Villalobos?
No, I was just asking how it's different, not that they are different, but what's the process? How is it different from, let's say, the principal doing an evaluation on a teacher? You know, at the same time, I understand Jesse, wants to recruit these people, but I also just want to know, if we're not evaluating them the same as our regular permanent staff, how do we really know?
So supervisors are in IEPs with our RSP teachers or SDC teachers. Supervisors are in, so whether it's the principals or Dr. Carrillo, who's director of special ed and student services, somebody is in those IEPs with our teachers. So they see teachers in that realm. They also see teachers when they're going through the classrooms to see student progress. So it may not look like the same evaluation, but there are ways of seeing how things are going.
Yeah, and that is really important. I mean, I do stress that it's the ones that we want to keep.
Right.
Right? It's not. I don't want to say that the kids are too important to treat us as beggars, right? And say, we'll take all of them. I think we have to be very judicious and pick the ones that we want, but the ones that we really think are superstars, we should do everything possible to convert them.
I think that the reason this discussion is so important is if we think about the cost of contractors and we think about the value of contractors. If you think about where we were last year at this time, we were in a very different place than we are right now. So many openings, and the biggest difference is that we reached out to contractors earlier than we have in the past, and those positions are filled. If you can pick a point 5 years down the road and say, 5 years from now, we'd really like all of these teachers to be district employees. And should we have some workforce housing that we could entice them with, that would be one benefit. Another would be when we look at the cost of what we pay for a contractor, could we use some of that money to pay a sign-on bonus or a stipend or something that would increase that salary, that people would be looking at us. And all of that we have to do with LSEA through negotiations. But I think just based on how the important roles that special educators play for students and play in the school environment, I think it's certainly worth looking at different options to compensate special educators so that they might consider becoming Pacifica School District teachers.
Yeah, I'd also just like to offer as well that the value of a special education team is really an IEP team where there are members of that team supporting that child. And so each member, we talk about this a lot in our special ed staff meetings, which includes district employees and contractors. So we talk about how we all really represent a spoke of that wheel, where this the center of the wheel is the child, and that's really where we are committed to providing that support.
Thank you, Julie.
So is there any other discussion before we're going to move on? I will take that as a no. We are then going to move on to item 11D, LSEA MOU, concerning the impacts and effects of resumed district operations under COVID-19 conditions. Ms. O'Flaherty.
Thank you. We are bringing forth today a signed memorandum of understanding that was developed in collaboration with the Pacifica School District and LSEA. First and foremost, I would like to thank our LSEA partners for their collaboration in reaching an agreement to this MOU regarding return to instruction for the 2020-2021 school year. Pacifica School District and LSEA met and developed an MOU which addresses specific conditions such as hours and work conditions, communication, attendance, collaboration, privacy and safety, evaluations, access to facilities and classrooms, health and safety communication, leave of absences, salary, assignment to the full year distance learning program, class size, equipment, training and technical support, curriculum content, progress monitoring, and special education. I again would like to thank LSEA for their collaboration and partnership during negotiations. It is recommended that the board approve the memorandum of understanding between the Pacifica School District and the Laguna Salada Education Association regarding returning to instruction for the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you very much. Are there questions, comments from my fellow trustees?
No questions.
My only comment is thank you for everybody involved in that. It was a very wordy and complex MOU. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. No question.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either. I'm just very thankful that you guys worked so hard on this and have it put through. The agreement looks really really good, and I'm very satisfied with all of it.
Thank you. And again, it was a team effort between the school district and LSEA, and I just appreciate their support and their collaborative work that we did together.
Great. So if there are no other questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve the LSEA MOU concerning the impacts and effects of resumed district operations under COVID-19 conditions?
Well, motion to approve the MOU.
Okay, I will second it. And Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, trustee Bradall,
Yes.
trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
trustee Doggett,
Yes.
trustee Levin,
Yes.
trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving on to, wow, I seem to have lost my header on this. There it is. Item 11E, as in Edwin. Resolution number 2020-1007B, Week of the School Administrator. Ms. O'Flaherty.
Thank you. We cannot thank our school site administrators enough for their leadership, courage, and strength during a typical school year, but is more evident now during the pandemic in which we are currently facing. We are presenting the board with Resolution 2020-10-7-B, Week of the School Administrator, and recommend that the Board of Trustees approve this resolution in honor of our district school administrators. So Dr. Olson, you are muted.
Mr. Lucy, would you pull that one, pull up the resolution, and we will want the additional resolution. I know that we are losing our voices and others, but I would ask both the cabinet members and the trustees to join me in reading a paragraph of this resolution. Just as we talk about our CSEA and our LSEA employees and all the work that they put into the pandemic response and distance learning, our principals are working very, very hard to support teachers, support families, support students. And so I would just like to, if you would join me, recognize them by sharing in the reading of the paragraph. Do you agree? Yes? Okay, so I'll get us started. And while Will pulls that up, I will read as slowly as possible. So Resolution 20-10-7-B, whereas leadership matters for the Pacifica School District and the students we serve every day, and especially during the current COVID-19 pandemic, and
I'll take it. Whereas the title school administrator is a broad term that includes many that work behind the scenes to ensure that students have nutritious meals, students and families are provided technology as a way to access curriculum, and
whereas dedicated administrators have responded to the pandemic by placing the well-being of every student at the heart of their efforts by monitoring attendance to see that every child comes to school, coordinate teletherapy services, doing wellness checks, and ensure that meals are available to students. And
whereas school administrators have realigned their roles to meet the challenges and work alongside their staffs by coordinating material distribution days, leading staff, and providing assistance with Google Classroom, Zoom, and other technology tools. And
whereas school administrators are lead learners and embrace opportunities to grow with their staff, especially in the area of technology, by recording morning messages, making welcome back to school videos, leading virtual back to school nights, and conducting virtual meetings to connect with students, staff, and families. And
whereas school administrators understand the importance of family engagement in a student's success and provide families with hotspots and computers, partners with teachers to provide parent support and serve on a wide variety of district committees, including District English Language Learner Advisory Committee, Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, and
whereas school leaders team with parents, volunteers, and community. Oh, don't move it while I'm reading. Whereas school leaders team with parents, volunteers, and community partners to meet the needs of our most vulnerable students and families by conducting home visits and connecting families to community resources. And
whereas students and families depend on school leaders more than ever, and we believe that our employees' response in serving children during these challenging times serves as an example of selfless public service and pride in our community. And
whereas the state of California has declared the week of October 12th through the 16th, 2020, as the week of the school administrator per Education Code 44015-1, and
therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees strongly encourages all members of our community to join them in personally expressing appreciation to our school leaders for their dedication and commitment to the Pacifica School District. So, yay.
Thank you, administrators. So I think we have to vote on this, don't we? Well, actually, we have to ask for questions. Are there any questions or comments surrounding this resolution? I will take that as a no. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2020-10-07-B, week of the school administrator?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 11F, resolution number 2020-07-C, Indigenous Peoples Day. Trustee Olson.
I just gained Trustee Olson. I like that. Elected.
Oh, I'm
official,
sorry.
right? Elected official, I'll take that.
I'm sorry, Superintendent Olson, but Trustee Villalobos is going to read the resolution. So my brain was working a little too quickly here. So Superintendent Olson, please.
Will, if you'll also pull that one up. We posted a draft on when the agenda got posted on Friday, and I had attempted to make some attempts to update the resolution, and Trustee Villalobos, I asked her to take a look at it, and she really added some very meaningful pieces to that. So I would defer to her if she would like to read this.
I would like to ask my trustees for help because in reading it. So
I would be glad to help you.
Oh, thank you so much, and anybody else too.
Great.
Okay. Board of Trustees, Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, resolution number 2020-10-07-C. Pacifica School District recognizes Pacifica as built upon the homelands and villages of Indigenous people, such as the Ohlone, and members of the Arapaho, Choctaw, Yankton, Cherokee, San Carlos Apache, Ponca, and Omaha, and many other tribal members live in Pacifica.
Whereas the idea of Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. I'm going to go on. And whereas, in an effort to reveal a more accurate historical record of the discovery of the United States of America, representatives from 120 indigenous nations at the First Continental Congress on 500 Years of Indian Resistance unanimously passed a resolution to transform Columbus Day into an occasion to recognize the contributions of indigenous people despite enormous efforts against Native nations. And I will pass it off.
Okay. Whereas Indigenous Peoples Day is a holiday celebrated on the second Monday of October in the United States in lieu of Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day at its core aims to celebrate and honor the past, present, and future Native peoples throughout the United States and acknowledges the legacy of colonialism, which has devastated Indigenous communities historically and continues to negatively impact them today. More importantly, however, Indigenous Peoples Day moves beyond the narrative of oppression and honors the histories, cultures, contributions, and resilience of contemporary Native peoples.
Whereas there are over 600 Native nations in the United States and 6.8 million Americans identify as Native American, about 2% of the country's total population, yet representation for Native peoples, especially contemporary Native peoples, is seriously lacking, and Native communities still experience a legacy of discrimination as a result.
Whereas in 2020, the movement for Black Lives Matters has inspired people to protest and reject racist symbols and institutions. This has led to the renaming of the Washington NFL team. In 1999, the first lawsuit to change names filed Susan Sean Harrow of the Cheyenne and Hoduliji Muskogee, and has been in the No Mascots movement since 1962. A writer, curator, and policy advocate, she is a 2014 recipient of the Presidential Medal of Honor, the United States' highest civilian honor.
Whereas Pacifica School District recognizes American Indian people and their accomplishments and contributions, past and present, such as Chief Standing Bear, Punka, who argued and won in 1879 in the U.S. District Court in Omaha that American Indians were human beings. And Sharice Davids and Deb Holland, the first American Indian women elected to Congress in 2019.
Whereas PSD recognizes the facts that American Indian youth ages 10 to 24 have the highest suicide rate compared to any other group, and 84% of American Indian girls and women experience a form of violence and abuse in their lifetime.
Whereas the children of the Pacifica School District deserve a well-balanced education that includes the history of American Indian genocide, the struggles and accomplishments of Native American.
I think Jesse just froze. Peoples and deserve to
Mythology.
Okay, there you go. Whereas you froze. You want to redo?
I will redo. Whereas the children of the Pacifica School District deserve a well-balanced education that includes the history of the American Indian genocide, the struggles and accomplishments of Native American peoples, and deserve to not be taught things that are outdated and seen by contemporary thinkers as mythology. Whereas PSD committed to improving the suspension rates of American Indian children in our schools. In 2019, there were 7 documented American Indian children, yet they made up 8.8% of the suspension rate. And PSD will seek to find alternatives for positive solutions and remedies to nurture the social emotional impact of learning on our American Indian youth in the district.
Whereas countless movements around the world in the US in the present time by Native people to protect land, fight against climate destroying projects, and build viable cultural systems. However, Columbus Day remains a widely celebrated holiday in the United States and glorifies a false narrative of America's founding and erases the genocide of Native peoples.
Therefore, be it resolved that beginning in the academic year 2017-2018, the second Monday of October is referred to as Indigenous Peoples Day and not as Columbus Day in the Pacifica School District. In October 2020, Indigenous Peoples Day is a holiday where employees and students observe by not attending school. The school district provides resources to teachers and training on appropriate ways to teach about the history, struggles, and accomplishments of Native people.
Thank you very much. So I would like to ask if there are any questions or comments about this resolution.
I just want to thank Superintendent Olson for reminding me that, it's Indigenous Peoples Day again. Time has just been lost with everything that's been going on. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for your additions to this. In addition to my own research, I had the opportunity to learn from what you added to this, and I feel like it's made it a substantially deeper document.
Yes, Superintendent Villalobos, thank you so much for making your additions as well. I think it's a richer document. Any other comments or questions about this important resolution? No? Okay, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2020-07-C, Indigenous Peoples Day?
I'll motion to approve resolution, what was it? Indigenous Peoples Day.
I will second that. Ms. Campos, will you please take
Kai has the second. She chimed
Oh,
in.
did she get in there? Okay. Trustee Doggett, you got the second on that. Do I have we need a vote on this. So Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall?
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Levin?
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos?
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 11G, public hearing, resolution number 2020-10-07-A, a statement of assurance for pupil textbook and instructional materials. Mr. Lucy.
All right, what I put before you is another resolution. And this resolution is in compliance with Educational Code Section 6119 for the adequacy of pupil textbooks and instructional materials for the 2021 school year. This is an annual resolution, and it is recommended that the Pacifica School Board of Trustees approve this resolution to be compliant with this ed code. Are there any questions?
Well, I had one question just around world language. I know that at least one, maybe two schools are teaching Spanish. Is there a reason why we don't have anything in that category? And also, longer term, are we thinking about possibly having Spanish across the district in the future?
That's a loaded question. I think that was the goal at one point, and I think it still is the goal to have world languages across our school district. As of right now, it is a one period section at IBL, and it's actually being taught by a Spanish teacher from Jefferson Union High School District. And then there is the Spanish class that goes on at Sunset Ridge and is provided as in kind of a not an enrichment, but a kind of a special at Sunset Ridge. So there is no really requirement under this resolution to have, we obviously have to have curriculum for both of those, but it's not required under the insurance piece for that. But they do have curriculum, and all the students who are within those classes have the materials or textbooks if there is a textbooks for both those classes.
So is it the same teacher for both schools?
No, it's a different teacher. The for the IBL, it's actually a teacher who teaches Spanish in Jefferson Union High School District. I think she teaches at Terra Nova, and then in at Sunset Ridge, it's Diana Ortero who's been doing it for the last, who has been teaching that for the last few years.
Okay, so we don't really have a standard yet, but maybe one day when we all have Spanish.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully, yeah, we'll be at that place.
Okay, thank you.
So I think this is a great catch, Trustee Brocchini. I'm going to channel our ex-colleague Kathy Shiakari here, and what she would probably say is, well, then why do we have that bulleted line in there if it's not being used for world foreign language, and it has a big N/A? So I'm just wondering, is that required somehow that we have that, or is that just an artifact from some list that was copied in here?
Well, I think the reason it's there is because I think in some districts, and like this same type of resolution occurs at the high school level too, and there is a requirement to have world language within the high school district, so it would be more of a core subject area. So I think it's in there because it is, it's just a standard placeholder.
I mean, that's fine. I guess, I could either see that taken out or kept in. I guess it just looks a little strange, and maybe that's what Trustee Brocchini kind of zoned in on is what's that doing there, and it makes you question. I guess my only other question is, this is this needs to be read out, does it not? Or is it not necessary to read out every resolution?
Yeah, in the past years, it has not been, at least since I've been with the district, but I could read it out for you.
No, I mean, either way, that was more of a question for process for me, because I was used to almost every resolution being read out. So, but I don't see a need for it. I mean, I've read it, so unless others want it. My voice isn't that good, so I can't imagine you want me to read it.
And it also is, this is also a public hearing for it. So this has been posted 10 days in advance of this. So.
Okay. So are there other comments or questions on this? I will take that as a no. And let me go back to my script here. So do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2020-10-07-A, statement of assurance for pupil textbook and instructional materials?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Excellent. Ms. Campos, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Bradall?
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Levin?
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos?
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Item 11H, Constitution Day activities. Mr. Lucy.
Yes. Am I still on? Yes. Yes. Constitution Day is an American federal observance that recognizes the ratification of the United States Constitution and those who have become U.S. citizens. It is observed on September 17th, the day the Constitution Convention was signed. The day the U.S. Constitutional Convention signed the Constitution in 1787. The law established the holiday that created in 2004 with the passage of an amendment by Senator Robert Byrd to the omnibus spending bill of 2004. Before this law was enacted, the holiday was known as the Citizenship Day. In addition to renaming the holiday Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, the act mandated that all public funded educational institutions provide educational programming on the history of the American Constitution on that day. So each year on September 17th, it's recognized. Now, each of the schools have let me know or let us know of the activities that they did do on or around that day with regards to the Constitution. Many of them are the same as in previous years that were done school-wide, including trivia for the day, the reading of stories, the We Are the Kids, the preamble to the Constitution of the United States, the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which was very timely now, and then the U.S. Constitution and Constitution Day. But there were some additional activities that were done around the census. So many of the schools participated in activities around census and that the whole process of collecting that data. So there was a number of things on the memo that was attached to this item that it included all the activities that were shared with me that were done at the schools or done virtually at the schools.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on Constitution Day activities? Mr. Lucy?
Can I just make a comment? Not many people know this, but in the Constitution, the words merciless Indian savages is listed in there. So I would just like to remind teachers that if American Indian children are aware of this, not to force them on, doing, maybe just, maybe educate that that's still in the Constitution.
Thank you for bringing that up. And maybe it's time that we took that out of the Constitution. Just a thought. Are there any other comments? No? Okay, we're going to move on to item 11I, update on technology hotspots. Mr. Lucy.
All right, update on hotspot. This was a item that was requested that I come back with, and this item was to, I think the intention of bringing this information back was to ensure that all of our students had internet connectivity, and even those families that had internet connectivity, if they had weak internet connectivity or they had multiple people in their homes using the same internet connectivity, that they were provided additional tools to be able to connect with their classes. So within the memo, I did talk about the distribution of our hotspots, and then I also had some numbers there. What was given out to the LMTs who collected the names or who collected, who knew of the families through a request piece, to make sure that all families who needed hotspots were to receive them. We had originally purchased, received 40 hotspots, Verizon hotspots from San Mateo County, and 20 Verizon hotspots from the San Mateo Library. Since then, we've purchased an additional 200 hotspots through with T-Mobile, and then we also purchased an additional 60 more hotspots. These were both done because not only were we supplying from the request list, but also we were getting feedback from teachers and site staff that were indicating that these additional families needed them and weren't on the request lists. As of today, we have satisfied every single request, and also anytime a staff member or the LMTs in particular have notified us with a need for a hotspot, we've been able to provide them. We have a few left at the district office, so if any additional requests come in, we will still be able to satisfy that demand. But again, we're continuing to monitor it, and we will, if it continues to be an increased need, we'll continue to purchase more, just to ensure that all of our students have that connectivity they need to participate in distance learning. And even when we shift into the continuum program, they'll probably still need that connectivity piece. So that's where it's at. So I don't know if you want me to go over the numbers per school, but it is within the memo.
Well, I have one question. Just what percentage of the hotspots are being paid for by COVID money? Or do we know that?
They primarily are all being paid by COVID money, except for the ones that we received from San Mateo County, and the one we received from the library. Those were, we didn't have to pay for those.
So the library pays those bills, or the county?
The library is paying that, I don't want to make an assumption, but I think that they're paying it through funding that they're receiving so
the same way, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
On that same line, wasn't AT&T or Comcast supplying some for free, or letting some be free during certain months this summer?
They were that was a bit of a tricky situation. They were providing the actual device, but you still had to do the monthly charge. It was at a reduced rate, but the device was being provided. So, and I think that's just not us. That's districts wide. That there is a monthly charge for the SIM cards and the monthly piece. So yeah.
So, Mr. Lucy, I have a quick question, and this goes back to something that I raised before. Now it seems that all of the families who were in need of connectivity have connectivity. To what extent, if you know, to what extent has providing this technology stemmed the level of non-engagement?
Well,
or do we not know that yet?
We don't know it in particular, but I do know that it has had a very positive impact on ones that were, they weren't engaging regularly. And when the school staff or the teacher reached out, it was because of connectivity, then they were engaging after that. So at least to the families that received it because they weren't able to get on, it's had a major positive impact on their engagement.
Yeah, so I guess I would like to know how much of the inconsistent engagement problem has been fixed by technology, and hopefully it's a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. So then the other ones, there's going to be more sleuthing to do to understand, how to re-engage them. But it would be good to hear a little bit about that, and just more in general. I will continue to press on wanting to hear about difficulties engaging students and what types of students and families. And I really want to make sure that we're doing everything possible, especially for our most vulnerable populations, to make sure that they're engaged, because they're the ones that risk the largest learning loss, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I stated this at the last meeting when this came up, and I can't state this more strongly. The staffs at the school sites, the teachers themselves, and the staffs at the school sites and the LMTs have been spending a great deal of time reaching out to these families that are not engaging, and asking them or finding out from them what they need to engage. I can't say that it's a direct correlation, but one of the schools, their engagement rate, their non-engagement rate has gone way down because of the amount of hotspots that were given out or devices that were given and that's from day one of school to now. Their engagement and attendance basically has gone way down because they're able to attend due to.
Okay. Well, thanks. That's good to hear. Just one other tidbit. A report came out from Policy Analysis for California Education today, which really crunched a lot of data from the core districts, which are sort of the 7 largest some odd districts in the state, that really looked at attendance issues and which students were most vulnerable. And they really said, special education and our unduplicated counts of students, and especially at the middle school. And they said that the 2 subject areas that suffered the most were socio-emotional learning and mathematics. And it was at the middle school level in particular. So just to let you know that those are extremely tender areas that might be more affected than others.
Okay.
And I think I passed that along to you and Superintendent Olson today, and Superintendent Olson sort of said, "Yeah, that's old news. I read it this morning." So,
well, all I can say is I have a 7th grader, and she's suffering in math because of this distance learning. I'm seeing it firsthand with my own daughter.
case in point. Okay, thank you. So are there other questions about hotspot technology? No? Okay, let me get back to my script here. We're up to item 11J, update on bond projects. Ms. Peterson.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we're going to give you an update on Measure O. Our last update was in June 2020, and since then we did hire Cece Meng as our project manager and Christy Novak as the coordinator of instructional technology, and they are both here tonight to present to you an update on Measure O. Thanks for bringing it up, Will. So Cece will start.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cece Meng. I am happy to give an update on the bond projects. As many of you may recall, I did the master plan for the district, and I am happy to be in a position to see these projects be done right and done well. So next slide, please. So one of the projects we're currently working on is the Lindamar Educational Center Fire Code project. We're having the existing dated and not up to code fire alarm system updated. And right now, the project is under bidding phase, as well as we're having an asbestos inspection conducted on the building, and abatement work will be required. And the construction start date is anticipated to be in late November. Another project we're working on is the drinking fountain and touchless filtered bottle station for Sunset Ridge, Bellamar, Cabrillo, LMEC, Ortega, and the district office. There's a total of 13 new stations. There's 10 indoors and 3 outdoors. And we actually just have the drinking fountain delivered today. So construction will start Wednesday next week. Another project we're working on is the outdoor furniture for Ocean Shore, IBL, Valimar, Cabrillo, and district office. We already have the Valimar body bench installed about 2 weeks ago on September 18th. Concrete furniture for Valimar have an updated delivery date. It's going to be delivered on the next Tuesday. And the contractor already started doing all the site prep work. On September 24th, they did a lot of site improvement, expecting to receive the furniture next week. And there are 2 kindergarten kids table for Ocean Shore that's already been arrived on October 1st, and the maintenance staff will install them. And we also have recycled plastic furniture from Jayhawk, and they will arrive sometime by the end of October. It is the majority of the furniture for Ocean Shore, IBL, Valimar, Cabrillo, and the district office. And we have the same contractor in place. When the furniture arrives, they will be installed. Next slide. So that's a picture of the Velimar buddy bench. Next slide. So we're also currently working on what we call critical path projects, worth roughly $12 million. So critical path projects is a project that has the longest sequence of activities in the project plan. In order for the entire project plan to be completed on time, the critical path project shall be among the first to be get started. The longer we delay the start of a critical path project, the longer the duration of the entire bond project will be. So those non-critical path projects can be completed within the duration of the critical path project according to their priority. So we have two critical path projects identified. It's the Cabrillo new gym and Valimar's classroom enlargement and new kiln. These projects will require architect selection, design, DSA approval, bidding, and construction. And the design and construction process is anticipated to be 3 to 4 years. So we're currently working on architects' request for qualification, and we will develop criteria for architect selection, as well as confirming the program feasibility with the school principals. Once we have a pool of architects selected, we can assign them to projects, including Sunset Ridge's kitchen enlargement, Ortega's field, Ocean Shore's modular bedroom and classroom after the critical path projects. Next slide. Actually, we missed one. We missed one slide before this. Anyways, so let me see here. Oh, actually, we didn't. Sorry. Well, next one. So these are the completed projects so far. So we have the Ocean Shore roof done. It was $19,000, partially paid by the bond, and Cabrillo bedroom restoration, Sunset Ridge multi-purpose room, and district office roof. I know that there are some feedbacks from the community. How come the district roof got done first, without these other projects? So what I know is the district roof was leaking, and it was to a point it has to be replaced. The other projects are completed is the Sunset Ridge flexible classroom furniture. Next slide. So our next facility bound text will be develop a project master schedule, because we get questions from many of our communities, and from our schools, when their project will start. So we will develop a project master schedule so that each project on the bound project list will have an anticipated start and a finish date. And the schedule will be developed according to each project's priority. And after the next priority is identified while we're working on the master schedule work, and we will roll it out. And once we have the schedule established, we will roll out these projects according to the schedule. So now I will hand it over to Christy, and who will give you updates on technology.
Great, thank you, Susie. My name is Christy Novak, and I'm going to give you a brief update on how the bond money has been spent thus far in the area of technology. The first section are things that have already been done, and then the next section are things that we are currently going to be doing. So the first one, configuration, installation of network infrastructure equipment that equivocates to our firewall upgrade that we did complete in August this summer, which was very much needed and helped enhance the security that we do need. 33 classroom projector and LCD displays were purchased in the 2019-20 and installed during that school year. We also procured 1,000 Chromebooks during the 2019-20 school year as well, which were distributed to the sites. And then at the end of July of 2020, a high-level design for the network upgrade that we are going to be doing was completed for the district. These are very detailed technical documents in the idea of the big picture in relation to the different aspects of work that we need to do. It will help vendors and contractors understand what we are trying to achieve and our vision to help support students and staff. Next steps. So we need to configure our switches. So switches help with enhanced flow of broadband, I guess you can call it that way. So programming those. We do have the 2300 Chromebooks waiting with bated breath. I talk to the rep every week and I go, okay, where are we at? And so he's actually very responsive and he is constantly in contact with that vendor. So I just continue to update, the district and folks on that as I know. Teacher laptops are going to be purchased for Ingrid B. Lacey and Valimar. These are MacBooks. So we used to have a cycle of equipment in the past. And then for those who might not have been in our district previously on the board, there was a 2-year moratorium that was put on all technology purchases. And that essentially, right, has thrown off a cycle. So we're kind of playing catch up on that. So that is going to be great to be able to start doing that. And so that will be for Ingrid Lacey and Valimar. And then starting hopefully soon, we will be going out to bid for this large combination infrastructure project, which involves completing network aspects, servers, and cabling within buildings. And so very much looking forward to that project. Any questions or comments for Cece or myself?
Cece, this is Jesse. So thank you so much for all your hard work on this. I know the community is really looking forward to seeing some of these projects get underway. I guess I wanted just to ask you a question. Is it your sense that putting out RFQs right now and eventually RFAs or RFPs, we're going to have better response and have more choice and possibly get a better deal now that we're sort of in a recession compared to if we had sort of jumped on this earlier when things were booming?
I actually think it probably doesn't really make a difference because I know that all the architects, even before the pandemic and right now, they're still working and there's a lot of schoolwork out there. So I think it's probably the same.
Okay, well, it was wishful thinking. I just I had to ask. Thanks so much.
But I do know that schoolwork are among highly sought after projects than commercial or residential because we're more stable paying client. We have a steady fee, so we can get good architects because we're good clients.
Okay, great, thank you. Do my fellow trustees have some questions or comments?
I have a couple questions and comments.
Please.
First of all, I'm really happy to see so much happening on this. It's been a lot of time and one of my pet things for years has been the facilities and making sure the kids had lots of stuff to do on the campuses. So thank you so much for fast forwarding this, especially because it's a perfect time when the kids aren't in campus. So thank you.
Yeah.
I did have a couple individual questions. One is around the kiln at Valimar. I thought that the 8th grade 2 years ago had bought a kiln, but are we talking about the enclosure around the kiln? So I'm just curious on that particular part.
Yes, so the current kiln is outdoors under a fence. And under a fence constructed by whoever, who knows. So it's not safe. And also it's outdoors. It has ventilation because it's outdoors. But the Valimar weather and the Pacifica typical weather, so they have to replace their kiln every few years because there's a tremendous rusting. And also because of his outdoors, it's inconvenient. It's outdoors outside the art classroom. So it's inconvenient for them to, if it's a rainy days, they have to get out. And so all in all, it's not safe, it's not convenient, and it's really due for a proper, real legal kiln for that school.
So it'll be like a up to code room or off of the back of that science lab.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
It'll be an official building addition
Okay.
with interior access from the art room to the kiln.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Other question was about the project master schedule. That sounds great. I'm just wondering if there's a timeline on that as far as when. Okay.
Yes. So right now we're working on the RFQ. By the time we roll out RFQ, by the time it goes through all the, the selection process review and also possibly interview process, we're probably looking at January for the board approval for that. That's why we're anxious to roll that out, because that process takes time. So when board approves it, an architect can start work. So that I'm looking to roll it out next week. So right after next week, I'll jump on the master project schedule. So we're looking at probably 2 weeks to 3 weeks from now, we have something to look at.
Well, great. I was going to give you 60 days, so I like 2 weeks.
Oh,
that's great. And then over to computers, Christy. So the one thing that's making me a little nervous, or is just, can we fast forward on making sure the teachers have laptops? It just seems like if they are working from a deficit right now at distance learning, that's a problem. So I'm not sure how much of a handicap that's causing, but I'd love for that to hurry up if possible.
Yeah, I mean, literally it's being ordered, like today's Wednesday, it will be ordered by the end of this week. I had to finalize the numbers with the principals, and so I'm still confirming that, but that order will be in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
So Christy, just really quickly. So I think you said IBL and Valimar are the ones that are going to be getting the laptops for the teachers, right? So we're trying to get back into the cycle of replenishing our fleet, if you will, right? And so those were the two schools that were up, but then I think in another year or maybe two, there are going to be other schools that are going to come up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. And so while we are fortunate to have, bond money and some monies currently right now to help with that, we do need to start to be proactive in discussions and thinking about how do we continue to support and create potentially a line item, right, for those ongoing supports for the equipment that we do need ongoing at this point, in schools.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
I think, two things is that we have not had major technology in our budget, and I think COVID has taught us what a foundational piece that is. And so we will need to develop budgets that have technologies that have replacement cycles, and then just acknowledging the deficit that we were making up for on both ends, both on the facilities end and the technology end. And I cannot thank both Cece and Christy for their leadership in this place, is that they've gone in knowing that people need buildings or they need technology tools, and trying to get them out as quickly as possible. So very, very proud of their work.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I wanted to raise one other point. It seems that we are right on the cusp of being kind of a one-to-one device to student district. And so I personally don't think that we're ever going to go back to the way things were before the crisis. And everybody has learned how to adopt technology. And I have a feeling it's going to be part of the regular in-person, more involved or integrated into the in-person learning experience. So I just want us to be kind of prepared for that while while everybody's being forced to use that at home. I think it's going to take more prominence, and that's going to require more investment on our end. We did hear from several teachers about, they felt that the training that they got was not sufficient. And so I think looking towards the future, make sure that we have the proper investment in place so we can make the most out of the technology that we purchased. So just a comment observation. Are there other comments from my fellow trustees? I will take that as a no. We are coming up on item 11K, update on child nutrition, breakfast, lunch. Ms. Peterson.
Okay, thank you. As Will brings up the presentation, we're going to give you a child nutrition update. Basically, we're going to go over the current year accomplishments and give you a meals update. And the next slide is a really nice picture of the ladies up at Sunset Ridge as they were serving during the shelter in place. Those ladies were amazing. Out there in the cold for long periods of time, always a smile on their face. So going forward into our current year accomplishments, we were able to continue serving food through the shelter in place orders. While everybody was in shelter in place, we kept our operations going, ordering food, getting it out to the sites, and having the ladies out there serving. We transitioned safely to a grab and go curbside service. We are certified with our self-serve training, serve-safe training at each site. And we also have given the staff a lot of professional development during this time. The next slide is really a summary of our meal service. We're still serving on Tuesdays from 11 to 1, breakfast and lunch for 2 days, and Thursdays, breakfast and lunch for 3 days. And now we're serving at all of our Pacifica School District sites. You can go forward, Will. This is just a picture of one of our grab and go breakfast and lunch options. And then somebody had wanted to see an update on our meals per day, and we kind of gave you a history from 2017-18 all the way through last year, 2019-20. And you can see the numbers drop steadily last year, and then even more so this year. We went down to 25% participation in 19-20 because the shelter in place from March through June, and then we're actually at 4%. And you'll see a detailed slide on the numbers coming up in this presentation as well. The next slide is really the breakfast meals per day. Same picture. You can see the participation drop steadily 19-20 and 20-21 to 4%. So the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program, we receive federal funding for free students and reduced students, and we also receive some state funding. The funding is normally not sufficient to cover our program operations. As you know, the board has been contributing to the programs because of our high cost of compensation, employee compensation, and food costs. You can go on, Will. So here's a detail of our service from September through today. And you can see by site how many meals are served for a total, when we prepared this, just over 1,000 meals. You can go ahead and move forward, Will. Thank you. So our meal prices are the same, no change since last year. We are still charging the same, but right now, people are receiving the meals for free, and we're collecting the federal and state reimbursements. So of course, there's no proposed meal increase at this time. So I wanted to give you the actual revenues and expenditures for the last 2 years, and I took 18-19 and then 19-20, so you can see how the program was affected by the shelter in place. So in 18-19 and in previous years, the board had made a commitment to contribute about $50,000 to the child nutrition program so that we could offer, healthier options. In 19-20, the contribution went up to $306,000. Now that $306,000 came from the district's general fund, our LCFF revenues. Now that was a contribution for just 3 months of shelter in place. So, we're going to be working on the 2021 budget updates coming forward, and I anticipate that number will be much larger. As you can see, our meal counts are very low, and we have maintained the same staffing. Of course, the food costs have gone down, but it's going to be much more than $306,000 for this school year. You can go ahead forward. Well, so that's pretty much it. Very, very quick update for you. I know it was getting late, so kind of went through it pretty quickly. I don't know if you have any specific questions or comments or concerns on the presentation you want to share.
Well, sorry, Fern. So I guess my concern, and I brought it up last time, is first of all, there are all lunches and all these pickups are still free. So I want to make sure that people know that. And then I'm concerned that we've got 20% free and reduced students, and only 4% are picking up food. So I guess I'm really concerned that kids are not getting the proper nutrition through this time. So I just really, everyone that's online, just please spread the word. I think it's just really important that everyone knows that option exists until the end of the school, or until the end of this 2020, and then we'll, I guess, have to evaluate after that. But it's just a little concerning that a lot of people that were getting food aren't.
Thank you very much for bringing that up again. We share your concern, and since the last discussion, our staff ran reports on all of the people who are currently signed up for the program who have not filled out the applications, and they've been personally reaching out, making phone calls. The school secretaries have been a huge help. Our kitchen staff have also been doing that. We've reminded the principals. We've been trying to do more advertising. So anything that you guys can think of to help us increase our participation. We want to make sure everybody gets to eat, every day, because it's available to everybody right now. So anything we can do to improve, we would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Josie, I just have a question, so we're spending $306,000 instead of our regular 50. And so I'm wondering if we will be getting back any of that money, or is that just going to be just out of our general fund and we're going to take a hit? And then for the upcoming year too.
That's a very good question. The $306,000 is pretty much done. That was taken out in the 2019-20 school year. We closed the books. The auditors are almost complete with their audit, and that's done. We can't get that money back. It was a contribution made by the general fund to keep the program in the positive, and there's nothing we can do about that. For 2021, really the same thing. We have to maintain a positive balance in the child nutrition program. We have to feed our students. So it's something that's going to be really hard to look at as we prepare our first interim budget report and we look at a budget reduction plan. This is a program we have to support, to make sure that people are eating. So Laverne, it's a very good question. We are going to continue making that contribution at this time.
And then my last question is, since there's so few children, using the program, what happens to the leftover food?
Well, there really isn't a lot of leftover food. Our child nutrition supervisor, she's amazing, she also worked every day through the shelter in place, ordering the food, adjusting her orders. The kitchen staff are constantly looking at their service and how much food they ordered, how much they have on hand. And every week we place orders, and we have to really order tight so that we don't have leftover food. And if you look at the food that we're serving right now, grab and go, some of it is frozen. So aside from the sandwiches that we make, some of the food is frozen, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. So we're not wasting any food. We don't have salad bars, and we're not throwing any food away.
Josie, if there was a possibility for reimbursement, was it more likely to be from the state or from federal? I was just wondering who we can put a little pressure on.
Well, right now it's the federal. We are receiving the reimbursement. It's just not covering our total costs. Even though we're spending less on food, we're still spending the same amount of money on overhead and employee compensation.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, let's move on. Item 11L, public report on developer fees. Ms. Peters.
Okay, this is me again. The developer fee is something that is collected in all cities, and it's based on when there is construction or development of residential or commercial property. And the Jefferson High School District coordinates this collection for us. And the fees are collected and put in a restricted fund, the developer fee account. And this report is done publicly every year, so you can see how much fees were collected and what the school district has spent. There's requirements for public notice, and we've adhered to all the public notice requirements posted at the library and various places. And it's really just a report of what was the beginning balance in our capital facilities fund, how much we received, and what was spent. So at this time, we haven't been using the capital facilities fund because we haven't had a lot of activity. As you can see from Cece's presentation, we're going to be doing a lot of construction moving forward. So we are going to match these funds with some of her projects. And we're going to be working with King Consulting, who helped us determine what state matching funds we have. So we're going to use the three various funds, the bond funds, state matching funds, and these developer fee funds in our facility master plan. This is not a huge balance that we have right now. When you look at the report, you'll see we started with 442,000, and through collections last school year was just over 84,000. So we ended with $537,000. But it's a good amount of funds that we can strategically use going forward as we move forward with our facility master plan. And so this report is made available to the public every year. The next item that I'm looking at bringing to you in a future board meeting is increasing the developer fee, because the state allocation board just approved an increase. And so the school districts have to do a study and do more public notices before we can come to you and ask for an increase. Jefferson did increase their portion of the fees based on the state allocation board in August. And so I'm going to be working on our study and trying to bring that forward to you as well. So this is a public report, and for your information, I don't know if you have any questions on this.
So my only question is for you is that study, it's really based, you have to demonstrate district need before you can increase developer fees?
Yeah, they look at, it's called an impact, developer impact study. I think that's what it's called. And you have to get a consultant, which I have contracted with, the board has approved previously. And they look at capacity of the sites, they look at the enrollment, they look at the population, they do a whole bunch of calculations to determine if we would be eligible for that increase.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions for Ms. Peterson? Okay, I will take that as a no. We have item 11M, as in Mary, superintendent contract. I will present, and then we also have a public comment after I present. My presentation will take about 30 to 40 seconds. So we are reforming the term of the contract for the superintendent to go from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024. This is a 3-year term. The salary arrangements and benefit package are identical to the prior contract. There have been no changes. The salary is $214,040. The superintendent does not receive any health benefits as compensation. However, the compensation does include the same level of benefits as before for vision and dental as the district cabinet members. Excuse me. And there are very, very small changes in the contract that reflect a change in the timing of the evaluation cycle and a change in the ability to carry over vacation days. And the latter was just to make it consistent with other district employees. So the superintendent will be treated exactly the same as other district employees. Before we go into questions, I would like to let Jamie Blanchard come to the mic and speak. So Christy, could you turn it on for Jamie, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. In trying times, we rely on those in charge to lead us and keep us up to date, even if that means saying that you're still working on it. Our families were forced to pick between continuum model or full year distance learning for the 2021 school year. We had to choose continuum because I will be required to return to the office once it's publicized that schools are open. Is this a correct decision for me or my family? Making that decision in July when we were going to start the school year in distance learning, I have no idea. I won't know what the correct model is for our family until we're prepared to return to in-class learning. At the point the schools open up, I no longer have the option to do what is best or safest for my child and family. I think it was very short-sighted and unfair to ask parents to look into a crystal ball to know where they will be when and if school returns to in-class instruction. What is the roadmap back to the classroom? The slideshow on the Pacifica School District website was for a plan that was to be presented before it was decided that all schools would start from the distance learning model. Where's the update? The school district website is severely lacking information in general, but more importantly, information to keep families up to date on what's going on. Other schools have things like, we'll review it on November 14th. So at least there's targets and goals for families to work towards. This helps families plan and to know what lies ahead. If schools were open in a few weeks, many families will be left scrambling for childcare. I can't find anything similar on Pacifica School District website. Uncertainty leaves people uncomfortable. With the Pacifica School District administration, we have nothing but uncertainty. A particular concern is Dr. Olson's communication style. Quite often, her communications deflect open dialogue between parents and Dr. Olson. Frequently, she concludes her communications with, "I'm not accepting emails currently. Email my assistant." This style of communication is troubling to me as a concerned, involved parent, and I'm not alone in my concern. Additionally, teachers were brought back to work to distance teach. What training was provided on Zoom, the main platform they'd use every day to reach students? None. Some teachers have found better success with certain supplemental teaching platforms that the district has decided they won't pay for. Again, our underpaid teachers are asked to reach into their pockets to fund curriculum that they have found works successfully for them. Our teachers are the ones who have to show up every day and make magic with the kids in the district. Without the support of the district or a basic understanding from the administration, I hope our teachers were heard tonight. We need someone who can move our district forward during the best of circumstance and someone who will take charge and lead during the most challenging of times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would like to invite comments and questions from my colleagues on this.
I have a comment. I've just heard maybe 3 times tonight about communicating and getting back into the classroom or in-person learning. And that's a tricky thing. That's why we have the task force and we have to follow the guidelines and the models. But I'm just wondering if the task force, when they meet on October 20th, if that can be one of their goals, is like a projection. Well, we may be we may move on to the next phase January 4th or February 14th or what have you, because I can really relate to this, that the uncertainty is stressing out everybody, people, teachers, parents. And, we have to think too that it could be affecting the children who might be absorbing some of this stress. And so, I don't even know if it's possible, that's up to the task force, but if they can somehow just tackle that question so we can kind of put our parents and community at ease, which will trickle down to our kids too. It's just a suggestion.
Okay, thanks for the thought. I mean, it's my understanding that the task force is there to provide locally based solutions or plans to fulfill the requirements that have to be in place to come back to school. And all of that input is supposed to be considered by the administration. So I think that that is baked in there. That's my understanding, that the task force will definitely help facilitate um, information that should produce some more certainty as to when it would be possible to come back to school. Now that's different from and that certainty I think would be very comforting to many parents and staff members. Um, but I think that the ultimate decision as to when to to actually set a date to come back is reserved by the superintendent. At least that's my understanding here. But I think Trustee Villalobos, that definitely I think the task force is that's one of their main charges is to set it up to give us sort of a target, right, of when it's going to be safe enough for everybody, for students, staff, families to return to school.
Um, I'm just wondering if there's a way to communicate with the parents,
Yeah.
um, you know, after each meeting, you know, if there could be a mass email that goes out, you know, the task force met, this is what we discussed, so that everybody is aware of what is going on in the next stages, or if we're moving on in the next stages, or you know what I mean, just so we can
Yeah,
communicate
absolutely.
a little
Yeah.
better and more.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking in line with wanting transparent updates as to, right, that we were talking about before, just to see what the progress moving forward is and how much closer are we getting to being able to tell the community, you know, this seems like the target that before which we would not be prepared to return to school. So do we have other comments or questions? I mean, I think we've gone a little bit off track here. That this item is talking about the superintendent contract, but nevertheless, very important. I mean, everything is related here, certainly. But if I can redirect us to any questions about or comments on superintendent contract.
No questions for me.
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos, anything else? Okay, and Trustee Doggett just said no questions as well. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the superintendent contract?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's contract.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, we are rounding the corner here. Item 12 is future agenda items.
I am pulling that up right now. It is probably time to get back on track in terms of updating our board policies, and that timing, I don't know if I would be quite so much in a hurry if we weren't in a transition from executive assistant. The good news is that we have Suzanne until the end of the month. Kelly Elves, her replacement, is starting next week, and so there will be some overlap. Updating the policies is one of the most challenging things that we do, both on the technical end of preparing them and getting them updated with the computer system, but from the cabinets level is being able to review them and make those updates. So while it seems like there's not a lot of extra time, ours is coupled with the fact that we are losing Suzanne at the end of the month and that we need to get started. I mean, she's not lost to us. She'll certainly answer any questions that we have, but being the bulk of this work, we will need to get started on that. So I think that and reporting out and communicating on the return to school plan and the COVID task force, I think is going to be the bulk of work that we're going to do. There are still some compliance issues that we are looking at around how we will do the single plan for student achievement. It's more likely that there will just be an update as opposed to a real rewrite of the plan. So other than that, are there any items that you'd like brought forward?
I cannot think of any at the moment, but I will be sure to email you if they come up. My fellow trustees?
Anything else?
Are we going to have a regular schedule of the updates for the bond money? I mean, it wouldn't progress fast enough for every board meeting, but maybe set a regular schedule at a reasonable amount of time so that we have that come up again.
For me, I think after CC gets that master project list, I think that would be helpful to see publicly, and we can get that posted. And then in terms of updates like this, I think is every 6 months the right piece with kind of intermittent pieces along that. We're getting into some of the longer projects. And so you're not going to see as much progress. Is every 6 months, or would you like every 3 months?
I think every 6 months for a big report, but maybe a little one every so often, just because I'm sure the community, they don't always see what's going on. So just to remind everybody of what's been accomplished and what they're working on.
I agree. I agree.
Great. So before we adjourn, I just would like to thank you for extending my contract, and in good times and in bad, it is my privilege and my honor to be the superintendent of this district. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
And I also wanted to thank Ms. Campos for all that she has done. And I don't want her to be lost to us ever. So thank you very much, Suzanne.
Thank you.
You got big shoes to fill. So
she sure does.
You know. Okay. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for hanging in there. It is 10:02 right now. I am adjourning this meeting.
Great. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.